This is the story of how I almost blew up my Evo 10 just because I had the wrong parts installed. So I was staying in a different city for school, and one of my friends that I knew in that city was borrowing some tools from me at the time. So I was gonna go pick them up, and it was later in the evening, and yeah, minus 30 out, so it was really cold. So I warmed up my car. Like there was a bit of like the exhaust was visible, but that wasn't abnormal for how cold it was. So I didn't really think much of it. So his house was about 15 minutes away, so I started driving to his house. And so anyways, I stopped at his house and picked up the tools, went back in the car, started up, and I looked and I was like, that seems like a decent amount of smoke, like a little bit more than normal. So I was kind of like, I'm sure it's fine. So I start driving my 15 minutes back or whatever, and next thing I know, huge cloud of white smoke going out the back, and I'm thinking, oh geez, what's wrong? Like, why? What's going on? Am I burning coolant? Like, do I have a head gasket leak? What's my issue here? And yeah, like people are slowing down who are in the opposing lane driving past me because they can't see, and so anyways, I pull off to the side and I'm like, well, what could it be? Let me start checking fluids here. So I pop the hood, look, coolant, good, still at full. Okay, then what's my issue? Go pull the dipstick. It's not on the max mark, it's on the min mark, and I knew it was on the max mark last time. So I'm down about a liter of oil, and so I'm losing oil. The shop that I work at is, in a different city, so it's not like I can just go there and try and figure this out. I have to wait till the weekend because it's a Wednesday. And I'm like, okay, I know there's an auto parts store nearby. I'm going to go get some oil and top it up, and then I'm going to limp it back to where I was staying. And so I go to the auto parts store, get my oil, top it up. Okay, good, max mark. When I pull out the dipstick, though, it almost sounds like it's pressurized, like a little psst. And I also knew that wasn't really a good sign. But I'm like, okay, I'll just be really light. I won't put any boost. Like, I'll just be really, really nice with it. And so I started driving again, and yeah, just white smoke pouring out the back. And I'm about halfway through my journey, and I'm thinking, should I get a tow truck? Like, is it worth it to drive it all the way? And I just decided, you know what? I think I can make it. I'm sure I'll be fine. Which, probably not the best decision, especially in a scenario like that. You should probably just get a tow truck. But, anyways, whatever. I limped it home, and go check the oil. Down another liter. Well, that's not good. Where's this all going? Probably out my tailpipe, that's for sure. But yeah, so I'm thinking, well, what could this be? Why am I burning oil all of a sudden? Like, it wasn't doing this a couple days ago. And I'm thinking, I was like, well, did I put anything on the car recently? Like, what could be the issue here? And I'm thinking, and I'm like, well, if it's pressurized in the crankcase and everything, because when you pull out the dipstick, the like psh noise that comes out or whatever, and it wasn't like super bad. Like, the dipstick wasn't blown out or anything, but well, I did put catch cans in there, and I feel the one catch can on the side because there's two catch cans, one on the right and one on the left, and I feel the one, and then ice cold. And at this point, I'm thinking, this is probably frozen. And I'd been checking them fairly regularly, and they're supposed to have a bypass that, like, if something like that happens, or if you get too much fluid, it just bypasses through, and it still works. But the problem with that is I felt the line, and the line was also ice cold, and I'm like, well, that's also not good. So anyways, I took it out, took the whole catch can system out, unscrewed it, icicle pop, all frozen. The lines were frozen. I was thinking that's definitely my issue, and my stock lines are at home, so what am I gonna do? So I unthawed everything and put it back on the car, and basically checked it every day, and limped it until I could get it back to where the shop I was working at was, to check out and see what was going on. Gets to the weekend, And I bring it in to go check it out, put it on a lift it up. And I'm looking, and I'm like, huh, it's kind of, and first I'm checking for seals and stuff, and yeah, all the seals are looking good so far. Where's this oil going? Like, where am I losing it? I'm not losing it through the crank seal, cam seals, rear main seal, all those stuff, like valve covers, all good. Nothing's really leaking. I'm like, well, where am I losing this oil? And then I look on the transmission. Down the transmission, there's a line of like oil or something. I'm like, well, am I leaking gear oil? And I look and I'm like, nope, no, it's not gear oil. And I look straight up. Oh, it's my cold air intake. Why am I leaking oil through my cold air intake? So I take off my cold air intake filter. Intake system full of oil all over the place. Just like, put your finger in there, soaking wet. I'm like, well, that's just great. So I was leaking oil out of my turbocharger. How much oil is in my intake? So I start taking off the hoses and looking, and yeah, they're all covered or whatever. And I'm like, well, let's see. Like, do I have to take off my intercooler? I take off the top pipe, shine a light, look straight down. Bottom section is just full of oil. Take off the bumper, take off all the intercooler piping, take off the intercooler, and I literally had to drain the intercooler overnight in an oil bucket, or like oil catch container, whatever, to get all the oil out. So I took all that out, wiped out all the hosing, cleaned it all up, put it back together, and put the stock hoses on, and I haven't had a problem since. But on this topic, this is the whole reason of why you shouldn't run a catch can, or even an air to oil separator for that matter, in the winter. If you're running it in the summer, no problems whatsoever. If you're running it in the winter, even if you empty them all the time, these lines can freeze. These catch cans, because they're so far away from the engine, can freeze. Even with an air to oil separator or a catch can that's heated, they can still freeze. The lines can still freeze. It doesn't matter. If you're running it in the winter, don't run a catch can. Just take them off, put them somewhere else. If you really want a catch can, throw it on in the summer. Don't use one in the winter, because, well, if my experience in this story has taught you guys anything, it should be, don't run catch cans in the winter. And that's my problem. I probably should have done more research. I double checked to look on the website to see if it said anything for temperature rating, and it didn't. But yeah, my story is just kind of one of those lucky ones that I didn't blow out any seals, because it's very easy to blow out seals in that scenario, especially under a boosted car. With all these lines freezing and everything, the PCV could have also frozen. And then yeah, you're just building pressure. The risk to reward, is it really there if you have the high risk of freezing it up and burning a bunch of oil? It could have been a lot worse for me than it was, and I'm very happy that all that it was just take the catch cans off, drain all the oil out that was in the intake system, and put the stock hoses back on, because it could have been a lot worse than it was. So I just advise you guys, do research when you're looking into parts, and I should have known better. And it's just one of those things that you have to be careful of, because not all mods are made for all climate. Anyways, thank you for listening to my little story of how I almost blew up my car, and I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned from it. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a comment in the comment section if you have any more videos that you'd like me to cover in the future. Until next time.